We have been talking about Jesus for the last 3 weeks. Just him. Things that he said about himself. Things that help us identify who he is. And I guess that what I'm trying to say here is this, is if you are going to call him Savior, if you're going to call him Lord, if you are going to put your trust in him for your entire soul, for all eternity, I want you to know who he is. And so sometimes we kind of polish over these things. And so we get to the end, and then we leave people dropped off. Like we get them to salvation, and we kind of drop them off and let them kind of figure it out for themselves at that point. And so as we get ready for Easter this year, what I wanted to do for y'all is talk to y'all about our Christ and who he is. And the best way I think that you can do that is by reading when he taught. What better way to identify about who somebody is than to take their very words and dive down into them. Today we actually started not with Christ's words, but with David's words in Psalm. And I'm going to go back there just for a little bit, and I'm going to kind of read through it just a little bit to get us to the point where we can get back to John. So if you want to get caught up with where we're going to end up at, let's go to John chapter 10, and that's where we'll finish today. But to get there, I'm going to go ahead and go back to Psalm 23. Again, if you have any kind of background with church, Psalm 23 is like your marching order, right? That's like everybody that has gone to church. You've got something at home with that probably printed on it now, right? You got a bookmark, you got a coffee cup, you got something with Psalm 23 on it because it's a really short chapter, and there's a whole lot packed into it to help you identify with the Lord and a lot about who you are as well. So in Psalm 23, David starts off with saying that the Lord is his shepherd. And then he's, from there, going to identify some things that the Lord does for him that makes his life astronomically better than it was before the Lord, before at least he identified that the Lord was his shepherd. And so he really is about 12 things that he talks about here, and we're going to hit them all. We're going to talk about the 12 different things that David points out as what you're going to identify. They're not traits about God, though. They're things that God does for David. And that's important because when we get to the New Testament, we start talking about Jesus, and we read what Jesus says about being a shepherd. What you're going to see is 12 things that Jesus says about being a shepherd, and they're not to do with the sheep. It's all about the shepherd then. And so we're going to read 2 different perspectives here about shepherding. And one's going to be focusing entirely on the sheep, and one's going to be focusing on the shepherd. And so we're going to start with the sheep. In Psalm 23, he says that the Lord is his shepherd, he shall not want. All right, gotta stop there, okay? Because when you tell somebody, if the Lord's your shepherd and I don't want, when they hear that, what they think is that you don't, there's no one thing in your life that you're missing out on. That if you want it, God's going to give it to you. All right? And there is some truth to that. So far to say that only when your heart lines up with God's heart, there is nothing that you could want that he's going to hold back from you. There is nothing you could need that he's not going to hold back from you. And so you got to kind of work into that, because when you tell somebody the Lord's my shepherd and I want for nothing. Everything I want, everything I need, he's giving it to me. All right? Well, somebody's going to say, hey, Lord's my shepherd. You got a nice truck, I want a nice truck. You got a nice bank account, I want a nice bank account. You got this, I want this. What you're planting into their mind is a spirit of envy. Because they feel like they can go to the Lord and he is their magic genie. I can come to God and get whatever I want. But that's not what he's actually saying. He's saying that there is nothing that he lacks for in this world that God holds back for him that is good for him. There's nothing that he needs to get through this life that God is withholding from him. He lacks for nothing, so far as we see what God is actually giving him in the next few verses that helps us identify with what he's not lacking of. So in verse 2 he says, he maketh me lie down in green pastures. If you're a sheep, that is the ideal place. Sarah and her family raised animals, and we watched on movies how people raise animals. in my family, I have no idea about raising animals. From time to time we get a dog until we could figure out we can't keep a dog because we don't take care of ourselves, and then the dog would leave, and that's just who we were. They would raise goats and sheep and cattle and horses and you name it, they're raising it. And she one time told me about how where they were at out there was really hard on sheep and goats because it's real rocky and it's bad for their feet. And so on the way here, I was actually thinking about that because we were talking about all the different, and I want to tell you something crazy about my wife. They would eat anything. We saw some guineas on the road, and so I was like poking at it. I'm like, what's a guinea taste like? You know, I have no clue. If it's not chicken or beef, it really isn't something that I throw on my plate. But I'm like, hey, what's a guinea taste like, right? And she said that she didn't know because they didn't really have them, and she doesn't want them because they're loud and obnoxious. And so we started going down the road of all the different animals they raise, and I'm known because I think it's wild that people raise animals. I grew up in a not city but town where people don't have livestock, and I still live in town, and we got chickens at our house now, rabbits at our house now, and I think if I let her, we'd have a pygmy goat out there to mow the lawn for us too. All right, so this is something new to me, but sheep, that fertile, nice, green pasture. That's where you want to be. You don't want to be out in Abbott, down in the rocky hills, hurting your feet. And so he's saying that the Lord puts him in the best of places. The places where he's going to be able to eat and not be hurt. And then he continues on. He leadeth me beside the still waters. Again, this is a talk about turbulence here and how at times our lives, if you associate them with being a river, from time to time, a river can be mellow, right? I mean, like, you go out and you look at that thing, and it's not even moving; it's just set still. And then you'll come in after a rain, and that thing is ferocious. You look at it, and it's like, if I fall in that, I'm done. I don't stand a chance. I can barely swim in the best of times. I'll be an anchor in that thing. He's saying that he's not talking about actual physical waters, or he's saying that the Lord takes care of the turbulence of his life. He puts him in moments and seasons of rest and just lays him down. He says, this will be the season that you're in. Because I am your Lord, here's the season that you'll enter into. And here's what's so crazy. That water might be going 1,000 miles an hour. But because he is the Lord, you don't even take note of it. It all feels like smooth, calm water is to you. He restoreth my soul. He says the Lord restores his soul. I think about how far my soul went. How far my soul went away from where it was supposed to be. I'll tell y'all something that I firmly believe. I felt like one time my soul had died. I had went so far off where God had wanted me to be. I was doing things I never thought I'd do. I think about like when I was his age, right? And what I wanted to become in life, right? And all I had was hope, right? I had these dreams and this hope of who I was going to be. I was going to save the world at one point, right? I knew I was smart enough to know I couldn't be a superhero because that would require the super part of it, but I could at least change the world in some way. And then fast forward 15 years later, and I'm a cancer to the world. The world that I wanted to save, I became a hindrance to it. And the people around me, I was destroying this world. And he says that he restores my soul. I can wake up 20 years later and feel like that again. I can help change the world. I could be the hero for somebody. But I got to understand that the true needle points in the direction of who saved me. He restored my soul so I could be like a kid again. I finally understood that. people say you got to be born again, right? And I'm like the Pharisee. But how do you get born again? I can't clearly go back and into my mom and be born again, right? That doesn't make sense. But to wake up in my soul feel like a kid's again. He restored my soul to where it should have been. He leadeth me beside paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Paths of righteousness is the exact opposite of what I was just talking about. The paths I was going down was a path of destruction. And you don't even know it at the time, right? That's what's so wild about it. You think this is just life. This is just how you're supposed to be living. This is the way you're supposed to go in life. And you're supposed to be doing your thing and becoming the person that you need to discover in life, right? And this is who you need to be. And when you get so far into that, you won't even recognize that the road you've walked down has been nothing but destruction. But he started off by restoring my soul. He restores my soul, and now he leads me down paths of righteousness. Path of righteousness is just this. The path of right. The path that when it's presented to me, think of the fork in the road, right? There's a fork and I got to make a decision. Am I going to go down this road or am I going to go down this road? And here's the crazy thing. You're going to hit that fork 100 times every day. When you wake up, you're going to be presented with an option. And you've got to make a decision every single time. Do I go down the path of right or the path of wrong? The path of righteousness or destruction? And you've got to make those choices. But he says that if you will allow him to be your shepherd, he's going to guide you down the right one. So that I ain't got to worry about that road no more. Yeah, it's hard. And there'll be times where I look at that road and I bite my lip and road is so tempting. That road calls out to you, right? Your body craves whatever's down that road, but you know, because you can see the road behind you, all of those roads led to nothing but heartache and pain and suffering. Thank goodness he doesn't make us forget our sin, right? Because you just enter right back into it. I'd like that he throws that in there at the end for his name's sake. And I'll preach on that a whole other day. Yet though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. There's nothing I wake up in fear anymore. Yeah, I have these moments of panic and anxiety when things don't go my way. But I don't wake up anymore fearing that I'm going to die and go to hell. I told my wife this. And it's hard for me to admit to people, but I have a little kid worried about where my mom and dad were going to end up. And I thought about them constantly. And I'm not going to put this nicely in this saying that they were sinners. And that I even believe that they knew that they were sinners. They were both raised in church. And they both knew what the right path was. And for a season in their life, they just opted for the sin. And I was a little kid, and I probably was just a little bit younger than my son here. And there was, on TV, you had my TV had like a little knob that got like 3 channels, right? And I think my kids, they've got like a million channels that they could pull up YouTube and watch anything they want to watch. And I had to pick from 3, and 2 of them didn't come in very good. And so we always watched the news in the evening, and they would roll the stocks to let you know how your stocks were doing, right? And they played this music with it. And I told my wife, and this is crazy, you might think less with it, that I imagine that music is what they would play in hell. And I would flee from it. When that music came on, I got so scared. And I would run to my room and hide and cover my ears. And because all I could think of was the man and woman sitting there watching it. And this is where they were going. I had nightmares about it. Dreams, fears, and I don't do that anymore. I from time to time worry about my dad because I know he's not saved. But I know that there's nothing that I can do about that. Even after I was saved, I feared for him until Donnie was talking to me one day and just clicked. He says, what could you do to save him? What could you do? You couldn't even save yourself. And I don't fear those things anymore. I fear things that I should fear. I fear God the way I'm supposed to fear God. I fear a snake because I know it's going to bite me if I get too close to it. I fear these things. I have some unnatural fears. I'm not going to tell you I don't. I'm scared of mice, and I know that they're harmless. But the things that I shouldn't fear, I've got a real good perspective about them now. And I don't fear any evil. I don't think for a moment that Satan can come into my life and take over anymore. Yeah, he can throw some wrenches in it for me. And all that's going to do is make me lean harder on my God because I trust in him. But I don't fear any evil anymore. In fact, I believe that the Bible calls me to stand up against it and to fight it for my family. And so I don't fear the evil anymore. And then we get to see a description about the shepherd for a moment here. It says that his rod and his staff, they comfort him. And I've given you this illustration before, but the rod and the staff are representations of defense and guidance. And the staff was to guide, and it's the shepherd's hook. And that is to grab the sheep and guide them into the right direction. And then the rod was to fight off anything that would do evil to the sheep. And so he's saying that he fears no evil. Why? Because the shepherd is there. See, I couldn't get past my fears until the shepherd came to my life, right? I couldn't get past the idea that my mom and dad were going to hell, and then I definitely couldn't get past the idea that I was going to hell until the shepherd came. And his staff and his rod guided me back and fought off the enemy for me, and then raised me up so that I could hold my own armor one day, and I could get into the fight with them. His staff leads me back to the path of righteousness, and the rod keeps off anything that might come that would want to grab me and take me away. Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of mine enemies. That just says a lot about our God, that he says that you're going to have enemies in this world. And chief of them is Satan, and he wants to see you fail. I'm going to prepare a table, a feast for you. And they're all going to have to watch as you sit with me and partake in a meal with me. And they'll know who I am and that you were bought by me. So he's going to prepare a table before us, before our enemies, that we get to sit at. He says this, he anoints my head with oil. And I've never had that happen to me before, but I've been in a ceremony where somebody did that. Actually, I take that back, Don. I think Travis did that for us one time, didn't he? And that's a sign of kingship, is what he's talking about. When you pour the oil on, he says he's going to make much ado about us. And then another description of kingship is his cup runs over. It says his cup never runs empty for us. We will never go without. That cup will stay full, and we will continually drink of it. And certainly one of my favorite scriptures in the entire Bible, surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I'll dwell in the house of the Lord forever. And he's talking about, again, we're talking about the sheep here, that goodness and mercy would follow us all the days of our lives, and that we would in turn dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So what we have here is a description about a shepherd, but more so about the sheep. We get to see what the shepherd does for the sheep. Now we're going to go to the New Testament, and we're going to get a description of the shepherd. But this description is not going to be about what the shepherd really does for us. It's going to be about who the shepherd is and what he does, and what makes him holy and what makes him righteous. So let's stand again. I believe it's right anytime we read from the Bible that we honor God. John chapter 10 is where we'll be. And while you're getting there, I'm going to tell you that there's nothing magical about this. Okay, there's nothing that makes this any more important than if you were reading it when you're sitting down. But I believe that when you take reverence to God's word, and you do so by doing something a little different, that it makes it more meaningful for you and for your heart in terms of how you interact with the Lord. John chapter 10, verse 11. I am the good shepherd. the good shepherd giveth his life for the sheep. But he that is a hireling, and not the shepherd, whose own the sheep are not, seeth the wolf coming, and leaveth the sheep, and fleeth. And the wolf catcheth them, and scattereth the sheep. The hireling fleeth, because he is a hireling, and careth not for the sheep. I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and am known of mine. As the Father knoweth me, even so know I the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And the other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. Therefore doth my Father love me, because I lay down my life, that I might take it again. No man taketh it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it again. This commandment have I received of my Father. Let's pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you. Please bless this reading of your word. Today we just seek out the good shepherd. As David wrote in Psalms about a shepherd that would restore his soul, let us now see the shepherd in his fullness. Let us understand who the shepherd is. Let us praise Jesus, honor Jesus, and just of all things make reverence and make much ado about his name, because his name is the only name that can save us. It is only by him that we can come to you, Father, and we thank you for the sacrifice he made. That even though he was the shepherd, he was also the sheep. He was the perfect lamb that died on the cross for us. And we thank you that he can be more than just one thing. He can be the shepherd when we need him to lead. He can be the sheep when we need him to make the sacrifice for us. We thank you that he is of all things our Savior. Lord, just thank you for the time you've given us today. Please bless us, and we love you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. You may be seated. All right, so I gave y'all 12 things that David said about being a sheep under the shepherd. And even though I read them all for you, I'm just going to hit them one by one for you. 1, he shall not want. 2, he's caused to lie down in green pastures. And 3, he's led beside the still waters. 4, his soul is restored. 5, he's led down paths of righteousness. 6, he fears no evil. 7, the shepherd's rod and staff comforts him. 8, the shepherd prepares a table for him in front of his enemies. 9, his head is anointed with oil. 10, his cup runneth over. 11, goodness and mercy will follow him all the days of his life. And 12, he will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So what you see here is a perspective from David from the sheep's perspective. You really only get to see what the shepherd does for the sheep here. You don't really get a good description of who the shepherd is. But Jesus' perspective is a little different. See, David's perspective is a little earthly, because all the things that he's concerned with here, for the most part, is his life on this earth and how the shepherd takes care of him. Yeah, we talk about his soul being restored and being allowed to stay in the house of the Lord forever. But for the most part, everything he's talking about is a little earthly. But from Jesus' perspective, what we get to see is an eternal perspective of who the shepherd is. And so I'm going to give you the 12 things that Jesus said that would identify what the shepherd really is. And he says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd giveth his life for his sheep. And so what we'll see here in a minute is there's 2 different things he says about giving his life. He says he's going to lay his life down, but he's also going to give his life. So we'll start with the giving of the life. The giving of the life for the good shepherd just means this, is that his entire life is devoted to these sheep. Top to bottom. He devoted his entire life to the sheep. That means from when he wakes up to when he lays down, his thoughts, his actions, his work were all for the betterment of getting these sheep through this day alive. So Jesus, what we see from the first moment he speaks about being a shepherd here, is he says that it's because of him that we're allowed to even stay alive. But he that is a hireling, and not the shepherd, whose own the sheep are not, seeth the wolf coming, and leaveth the sheep, and fleeth, and the wolf catcheth them, and scattereth the sheep. The hireling fleeth, because he is an hireling, and careth not for the sheep. So what we see here is that the shepherd, the good shepherd, the true shepherd, won't leave his sheep. He won't flee when things get hard. He's going to stay there through the hard times. And we're told that time and time again in the Bible. He says that he will not leave us or forsake us. So when Jesus says, I'm the good shepherd, what that means for you is that through the hard times, through the bad times, through the times when you don't know how you're going to get through this, guess what? I'm there. If you put your trust in a different shepherd, another shepherd, guess what? When times get hard, that shepherd's going to flee you. And we're just talking about shepherds here, but you insert what I'm really talking about into your life here. If you put your trust in your money, when times get hard, is that money going to get you through? If you put your trust in your spouse, are they going to leave you when you start going through some hard times? What do you really put your trust in? If it's not Jesus, when times get hard, chances are it's not going to get you through. Jesus said, I'm the shepherd that no matter what, I'm there. I'll be the shepherd that doesn't leave you. I'll be the shepherd that stays by your side. In the night when it's storming, I will lay down beside you and calm your heart. What dollar in your bank account can do that for you? When you wake up in a fit of anxiety, and I'll throw my hand up because that's me too, and I wake up and I'm panicking and I don't know how I'm going to get through this night. He is the shepherd that lays down and puts his hand on my heart. It's going to be all right. And I'm not going to leave until you're all right. I'll be here and I'm going to get you through. My job won't do that for me. My wife will do that for me. But that's because her perspective is the same as mine. It's on the good shepherd. Sometimes he'll let her do that for me. But if you put your trust in anybody but him, and the first sign of trouble, we're taught to run from it. He's the shepherd that won't run. He's the shepherd that's going to stay behind and get you through it. I am the good shepherd and know my sheep and are known of mine. So we're taught two things here. That Jesus is the shepherd that knows his sheep. And then the second thing is that we are the sheep that know him as our shepherd. How important is that? He knows my name. I never would have thought that would have made me just smile from ear to ear. That Jesus, the Son of God, lived the perfect life, died on a cross. He knows my name. He knows my name. And I know his. And his name comforts me. I can just sometimes say his name. And it's enough. Oh, Jesus. Thank you for being my shepherd. Thank you for knowing my name. How important is it that Jesus knows your name? Here's how important it is one day they're going to call your name. Your name will be called, and you will stand up, and you will have to give a testimony to everything you ever thought. How dangerous is that? You ever felt like you have a really good week? You just, like, you're on top of the world. You just had like one of those weeks where everything's working for you. And we'll even go to the spiritual side where everything's just clicking for you. You got up, you read your Bible, you prayed every day, and you prayed for people. And when something bad happened, you didn't let it get to you. You just let Jesus take over. And at the end of that week, you just feel like, hey, I am working, right? Everything is going good. My spiritual walk is better than it's probably ever been, ever. Coming to church, how excited would you be if they just took all your thoughts and put them up on the screen for that week? Even when you're at your best, you're still mortified that people will know you for the things that you even thought that week. And what Jesus says is that in the end, they're going to take every one of those thoughts and they're going to put them out on record for you. And they're going to lay it all out for everybody to know. Every silent, quiet moment in your head, everything you even thought will be laid out. Everything you said, every word you spoke, everything you ever did is going to be laid out for you. And the Bible says that Satan's going to do it in an accusing way. He would be there to accuse you of sinning against God. Not because he cared whether you sinned against God. He actually encourages you to do it. But in that moment, he's going to be there to try to sway God to condemning you. So here's how important it is that Jesus knows your name. Because when they call your name, he stands up. says, I'll be your advocate. He's going to be your accuser. I'll be your advocate. Yeah, he did every one of those things. But that's when I died. Because he did every one of those things. How important is it Jesus knows your name? Sometimes that's all that will get me through the hard times, is that Jesus knows my name. And then I know his. As the Father knoweth me, even so know I the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. So what we're told here is not only does Jesus know his sheep, and the sheep know him, but he knows the Father, and the Father knows him. Likewise, that what we're told here is that Jesus, what he's meaning by that is that he is of the Father. He is one with the Father. And he does the will of the Father. And so if you're going to put your trust in someone, that you want them to know your name in the end, put it in the one that has the permission and the direction of the Father to go and do it for him. If you're putting your trust in someone that God hasn't told, you have the keys for all eternity. They're yours. Take them. You own judgment. You own eternity. And it's here in your hands. Here's the keys to it. If you haven't put your trust in that, what did you put your trust in? My shepherd has the keys to my heart and the keys to eternity. Because he knows the Father, he can talk to the Father. Because he is one with the Father, he can tell the Father, he's mine. I bought him. He's mine. And I don't have to worry anymore. And that's when they start correlating. That's when I can say, I fear no evil. Because I don't have to fear hell, because Jesus has the keys to eternity. And I lay down my life for the sheep. I started by telling y'all that there's two different things that we're going to be talking about here. He says that he gives his life for the sheep, and then he lays down his life for the sheep. So when I said he gives his life, what I'm saying is that from when he woke up to the time he went to bed, all of his life was spent to do what? To tend to the sheep. But this is something totally different. This is him saying that he lays down his life for the sheep. He's saying that he is going to give his life for us. He said this before it even happened. He said that he's the good shepherd, and this shepherd would die so that sheep didn't have to. Here's the thing about when a shepherd has to die so that a sheep doesn't. The shepherd didn't have to. The shepherd has got the ability to avoid death. You know how I know this? Because it's this old saying. It's kind of funny. Let me tell you. If there's a bear attack, I don't have to be the fastest person. I just got to be faster than the slowest person. Because the bear's going to stop at the first sight, right? So if I'm faster than that person, the bear's going to take that person, right? The shepherd is always going to be faster than the sheep. If Jesus, his intention was to avoid death, he could have. He's saying here, if a wolf comes to take a sheep, he would lay down his life for the sheep instead of fleeing and running from it. Jesus came to lay down his life for us. Here's the thing. He didn't have to. He's the good shepherd that did it anyways, so that we wouldn't have to die. Why do we get to call him? Why does he call himself the good shepherd? Because in his heart was just goodness for us. Goodness. We know that there's greatness, right? There's greatness because he performs all these miracles. But I say goodness and greatness have to go together. Because without the goodness, what do I care about the greatness? What do I care if he can perform these miracles if in his heart he didn't have a goodness towards us to die for us and save us? So he said, goodness and mercy is going to follow me because the shepherd's there with me. we're going to go down a different road here for just a second, because Jesus wanted to make sure that nobody was missed out when he was talking about being a shepherd. Verse 16, and the other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. Hey, if you're reading that today and you're not a Jew, he's talking about you. He's only talking to Jews in the story here. He's talking to first century Jews who believed that them and only them would have salvation by the Father. But Jesus is standing here telling them, guess what? You're not it. Bible isn't about you, it's about me. And here's the thing. You were entrusted with the Word of God so you could take it out and you could convert people. And because it was trusted to you, we expected, me and the Father, expected you to go do it, and you didn't. You took the Word of God and you kept it inside you and shared it with nobody. It became all about you, the Jews, and nobody else. Forget the Gentiles. Jesus is saying he's the shepherd that knows that he's got another flock. He's got a whole other flock out there. And guess what he said he's going to do? He's going to go take them and bring them into one sheepfold. This is the adoption of the Gentiles into the Jews. This is what happens to us. And I'm a firm believer in this. And a lot of people disagree. So you can disagree, and that's fine. That we're adopted into that family. That's what was supposed to happen in the first place. The Jews were supposed to convert the Gentiles to Judaism. And we are adopted into that family. Jesus said he was going to do that, right? He said he's going to go out. He's going to get those sheep. He's going to bring them back. He's going to put them into the one sheepfold, and he would be one shepherd for all of them. And that's why when Paul says it, that the gospel was for who first? It's for the Jews first. Because that's God's people. And then to the Gentiles. The gospel was still for us. And he's talking to a group of people that don't believe that. He is talking to sheep of his that don't believe that we were even his sheep. But Jesus says, I've got other sheep out there. You think you're sheep? That's fine. You're sheep, but I've got other sheep. And I'm going to go get those sheep, and I'm going to adopt them into this family, and you're all going to become one family. And I'm going to be your shepherd. So if you're not a Jew and you're reading that, thank goodness for that. Thank goodness Jesus says that you're still worthy, even though you weren't a Jew. That even though you weren't one of God's chosen people, that you're still worthy of the gospel. Jesus adopted you into the family. Therefore does my Father love me, because I lay down my life that I might take it again. One more thing we're told about Jesus, that he's loved by the Father. Earlier we were told that he was known by the Father, that he knows the Father. But here he says that he is loved by the Father. Why is he loved by the Father? Well, we see it in the end. It's because he is commanded by God to do something, and he's going to do it. He was commanded by God to go and lay down his life for the sheep. And because he would lay down his life, the Father loves him. And later on we're told that if the Father loves the Son, and we love the Son, then the Father in turn loves us. So if you're a sheep and you're a follower of Christ and you love Christ, you don't have to worry anymore whether the Father loves you. He does. We're also told here that he can lay down his life. Jesus, the Good Shepherd, has the power to not just lay down his life. That means he gets to decide when he's going to die. Jesus got to make that choice. He got to decide when and if he was going to die. But then we're also told that he has the power to take it back up again. Not only did he have the power to decide when he's going to die, he had the power to come back from the death. He's the Good Shepherd that died for you and didn't stay dead and decided to come back. Jesus is the Good Shepherd that had the keys to his own destiny in his own hand. He had the keys to it. We were talking this morning in Sunday school how he went back to the Father 3 times in the garden and prayed, let this pass me, but only if it's your will. And he could have went against the will of the Father. He could say, I'm not down with this, God. But he said that he loved the Father. And because the Father commanded something of him, he was going to do it. And in that turn, the Father loved him. No man taketh it from me, but I lay down of myself. I have power to lay it down and power to take it again. This commandment have I received of the Father. So what we see here is the 12 things that Jesus speaks of as him being the shepherd. And it's less about the sheep and more about the shepherd. It's one, that he gives his life for the sheep. And 2, that he won't leave his sheep. And 3, that he knows his sheep. And 4, his sheep knows him. And 5, the Father knows him. And 6, that he knows the Father. And 7, he lays down his life for the sheep. And 8, that he adopts in other sheep from other families. And 9, he's loved by the Father. And 10, he has the power to lay down his life. And 11, he has the power to take it back. And 12, he's loved by the Father because he obeys the Father's commandments. I'm here today. I don't care what perspective you're looking at it from. Whether you're looking at it from David's perspective or from Jesus' perspective, they're both right. Here's what I want you to know, is that if Jesus is the shepherd that David talked about in the Old Testament, if he is the good shepherd, then here's what we need to understand. 2 things. 1, nobody or nothing else can be the shepherd for you. You can't allow anything or anybody else to step in and play the shepherd of your life. And 2, if Jesus is your shepherd, then you can't be. If Jesus is the shepherd, you, your spouse, your material things, your own heart can't be the shepherd anymore. So what is guiding your life? What has got staff reached out and as you steer off and grabs you by the neck and pulls you back onto the path of righteousness? What is doing that for you? Is it your heart? Because here's one I'm going to tell you. Your heart's nothing but evil. Your heart wants to sin against God. Is it your heart that's guiding you back? Or is it the good shepherd that's guiding you back? When the wolf comes, what's staying behind to defend you? Is it your own will, your own strength? Because it's what I'm going to tell you. You're a coward and you're going to run from it. Is it your spouse? Because I see that America has got one of the highest rates of divorce in all the world right now. And we're supposed to be a Christian nation. Your spouse is going to leave you when times get hard if they don't have a proper perspective of who the good shepherd is as well as you. So who is your shepherd? What is your shepherd? You're going to find that you allow many things to guide your path. Myself included. I'm not saying up here and telling you something. You're going to let many things step in your way and guide your path. But there's only one that's going to lead you to the right path. The path of righteousness. That's the good shepherd. So what have you allowed to step into your life and start shepherding you? What is it? Because if that thing doesn't have a perspective of the good shepherd, they're leading you to the wrong path. Biblical example. My wife lets me lead her. She lets me lead our family. But I bet she wouldn't do that if I didn't have a perspective of who the good shepherd was. If I wasn't following that shepherd, she wouldn't let me shepherd our family anymore. She would take over and she'd say, if you're not going to do it, I will. You get a friend that helps you. If they don't know Jesus, why do you let them guide you during paths of hard times? I got plenty of friends. They got friends that don't even know Jesus. But I would never, ever, ever go to them for advice if they don't know who Jesus is. Why? Because they don't know how to get back on the path, and they don't know who to ask to get back on the right path. I believe that Jesus has put friends in my life that will help me get back on the path when I need to get back on the path. And they know how to talk to Jesus when I feel like I can't for one reason or another. And he will put them in my life so that they'll guide me back. And when things aren't going right, I know I can go to them because I know that who they're talking to is guiding them. But I would never go to a friend that doesn't know Jesus and say, here, I'm having some marital problems. How do I get past this? You just got to let her go, man. You just got to let her go. What? Why would I put my trust in that? And I'm just talking about friends here. But you can make anything a shepherd of your life. You can let anything start leading you and guiding you and forming your opinions about how you're going to live your life. So you're letting something shepherd your life today that you might not be, you probably shouldn't be letting. And I can't help you identify what those things are. I can just tell you, if they don't have a proper perspective of the Good Shepherd, they got no business helping you. Because as Jesus clearly tells us, that shepherd is going to run and flee and hide and leave you to die. He's the Good Shepherd that ain't going to do that. He's the Good Shepherd that will stay behind and fight off the wolves and then guide you back to the right path. So, as we start going to an invitation time, I'm gonna talk to you all just about. I got about 6 things here. I'm gonna tell you all about a good shepherd, and they're not long. So just kind of hold in there with me real quick, okay? So if Jesus is the good shepherd, there's some things I want you to know about him. The first thing I want you to know about him is that he can see farther than you can. In terms of it, maybe we can kind of get our idea on. We're not going to talk about sheep. Let's just talk about my son and I. My son and I go somewhere, and my vision extends a little bit better than his because he's a lot shorter than I am. And so if you're talking about sheep, they come up to bushes, and they don't know what's on the other side. But the shepherd sees the other side of it. You just got to look over it. There's no harm there. So when you come up to a block in your road that you can't see past, and you don't know how you're going to get by it, and you don't know what's on the other side of it, the shepherd can see to the other side. Jesus knows what's on the other side of the block that's in your road that's keeping you from getting to the other side. Not only that, he can see further down and see how you're going to get around it. And then, at the very least, when you can't get around it, what he's going to do, he'll pick you up and carry you over the path, over the block that's keeping you from going down the path that you're on. But here's the thing. A lot of times you get to a roadblock and all you can see is what's in front of your face. All you can see is your problem and your trouble and what's right here immediately in front of you, and you don't know what's on the other side of it. You don't know if you're ever going to get to the other side of it, but he's the shepherd that can see past it. And if you just put your trust in him, he'll get you around it, through it, or over it. But you got to put your trust in a shepherd that knows more than what's just right in front of your face. Because your problem is going to seem so big sometimes. Your troubles are going to seem so looming that you can look up and all you can see is your problems. You can look down and there's no way under it and there's no way around it. And all you're going to see is your trouble, your problems, and everything that's your situation that's going on with you. And you're not going to know how do you get to the other side. But he's the good shepherd that sees further than you do. He's got an eternal vision. Not just to see what's on the other side of it, but to see how every play works out. If you trust in him, he knows the one that's going to get you to the other side in the best possible way. The second thing is the shepherd can find you when you're lost. We're told in Matthew about a time when Jesus was talking about shepherding, how he's using the parable, how he says, if any of you that would have 100 sheep, and one of them goes wandering off and gets lost, how many of y'all would just say, he's lost, he's gone? He said that any of you that have 100 sheep and one goes astray, that sheep is so important to your life, your livelihood, and your ability to get past it. You would always go leave the 99 that are saved and go find the one that's lost. Now, that's a parable about salvation. It's a parable also about you being saved and wandering off, and he'll go find you and bring you back. But it also is truth in that that when you're lost and you don't know where to go, that Jesus will come find you. That no matter what season of life you're in, no matter what struggles you're facing, Jesus will always come to you. He says he knows his sheep's voice. When he hears them, he will come and he'll leave the 99 and come find the 100. And does anybody know what he says would happen when he finds it? He pick the sheep up and not even make it walk back. He will put the sheep on his shoulders and carry back. And when he gets back, he would gather all of the people of the community and have a celebration because that sheep was lost and now it's found. That's how important you are to him. That's how important you are. that you could know him, that you could be his sheep, and he could be your shepherd, and you could make a bad decision. You're with the sheepfold, but you steer off and make one of those paths of destruction for yourself. And he doesn't just let you wander off because he's got to stay here with the 99. He says you are so important to him that he's going to leave the 99 and come find you. Because he can hear your voice. He can hear you cry out to him. And he can come and find you, carry you back. And when you get back, there's no belittling. There's no, you shouldn't have done that. There's no, why did you do that? There's a celebration because you were lost and he found you again. The third thing is a shepherd can rescue you from the enemy's hand. No matter what's got you in its teeth, and we're talking a parable here about a wolf here. No matter what has you in its teeth or in its grasp, there is nothing he can't deliver you from. There is no enemy that's too good for him. His rod has been sparing his sheep for years. And it will continue. When you get snagged by the enemy, and it will happen, he's the shepherd who's strong enough to get you back from it. There is no addiction in the world that's greater than him. But here's the problem. When that got you by the leg, it seems bigger. There's no problem, no financial struggle, no one thing in the world that's greater than it. But when it got you, it seems enormous. His rod and his will come find you and beat that enemy and take you back. Jesus has the power to save you from any enemy. In Psalm 23, we're told that Jesus knows the full layout of the fields. He sees the horizon. And he will lead us to, we're talking about two different places here, to the green pastures and the still waters. So he can see the best possible spot for me. He's the shepherd that stands on the horizon and looks out into the fields in front of him and can tell what's best for me. It says, if I place you here for a season, you will thrive. But our problem is that we always fear what? That there's greener pastures. And so we leave where Christ has placed us to go somewhere where we think is better for us. But he's got the full layout. Right? He can see the whole field. He sees past every hill. He knows past every mountain. He sees every water. And he can look out and say, in the season that I'm in, right there, that's where you belong. Because that's where you'll be fed. And that's where you will find the least turbulence in your life. And that's where I'll place you. So if he's the good shepherd, trust in where he's placed you. I find too many people that are not content with the season that they're in. Jesus has placed them somewhere, and they'd rather be somewhere else. I can only tell you that from experience as well, because I was there. Jesus put me in a spot. But I knew that there's a better spot out there for me, but he knew the season that I was in and knew what I was capable of. He also sees the snares of the enemy out there. He sees the traps laid out by hunters. He knows I could get easily trapped in one of them. So he's going to place you in the best possible spot. Number 5 is that he's a shepherd that will put himself between you and your enemy. He showed us before that he'll sacrifice himself. He did it on the cross, and he's willing to still do that. And so Jesus is still willing to look out and see the enemy and not wait for us to get caught. He'll step out between us as long as we trust in him. And as we close, the 6th thing is the shepherd places the highest value on his sheep. Jesus looks down on you today and says you are intrinsically valuable to him. He puts the most value on you. And because of that, he will never give up on you. He will never leave you, watch you make a mess of your life and not throw his hands up and say, quit doing that. He's the good shepherd that places more value on you than you ever could. So you will never have more of an interest of your heart than Jesus could have for you. He loves you more than you could ever love yourself. Anytime you've been left to just do what's best for your heart, what did you do? You messed it up, right? Jesus says, I've got your heart in my mind. And I can lead you to the best possible spot. You just got to let me do it. Sarah's going to play a video for us. I would like for us to use this time to think about Christ. So there's two different perspectives here we're going to look at. We're going to look at David's perspective and Jesus' perspective. And in David's perspective, it was all about what? The sheep, right? I'm led beside still waters. I'm led to green pastures. He's going to prepare a table in front of my enemies for me. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me. Everything was about the sheep, right? But here's the season I want us to be in when we're past that. There is a season for that when you are struggling and your enemies are many and you don't know how you're going to get through. But the place I want us to get to is where we're looking at it from Jesus' perspective. Because I told you I want to preach on this every time I preach, but he says that he leads him the path of righteousness for what? For God's name's sake. All of those things that David talked about, the goodness and mercy, the green pastures, the restoring of his soul, he did all those for what? For God's name's sake. So, if you've got that perspective right, then you should be looking at it from the eternal perspective. You need to be looking at it from Jesus' perspective of what a shepherd really is. So as we stand, as we sing to God today, let us be standing and singing not about our troubles and our woes and not wondering about how we're going to get through it, but let's get our perspective right first. Let's get our perspective on this, is that all those things will come and God's going to take care of all of those things for you. But he's going to do it for his name's sake, for his glory, for his honor. And if you can't get your mind around that all things in this life are for him, for his glory, and for his honor, you're going to miss why they even took place. David even understood it. Even though he was talking about all the things about the sheep and not the shepherd, he even understood that all the blessings of being a sheep under the good shepherd was all to serve one purpose, and that's to point all light, all glory back to the good shepherd. So when the sheep thrive, the shepherd thrives. So let's sing today in honor of our good shepherd. Let's praise a shepherd that loved us, that died for us, laid down his life, but then didn't just stay dead. He came back, and he said he's going to do it again. So that's who we sing through today. We sing to the good shepherd that loves us and guides us through all of our lives.